All right. It seems like a lot of you guys in the chat earlier you guys were asking about how to find the right product. And so that's what we're going to go through right now. A couple of things from the mindset perspective. You got to think about product research as an iterative process. You don't want to overthink it, and you don't want to get stuck on the analysis paralysis phase analysis phase for so long. Otherwise, you're going to be paralyzed. And oftentimes, you're not going to know for sure that something's going to sell unless you actually try to sell it. Now, I'm just going to be upfront with you guys. Chances are you're not going to hit a home run on your first try. But if you follow the directions that I'm about to explain to you, you almost always get a base hit. Okay. And the way most people build up their e-commerce businesses is they have a whole bunch of base hits, and then maybe occasionally they'll hit a home run. All right. And in the event that you end up choosing a dud, I'm also going to talk about how you can liquidate your products and avoid losing money. Okay, let me get a quick drink before we go over product guidelines here. Okay, so let's just talk about some product guidelines here. I'm going to talk about this from the perspective of a beginner. Once you're a little bit more advanced, you don't have to follow these guidelines, but the more that you can follow, the easier your life is going to be. So in an ideal world, the products should not be fragile and easy to ship. I mean, we're starting an e-commerce business here. You don't want things breaking in the mail. The products should not take up too much physical space. And in general, like if you're selling on Amazon, I recommend starting with standard size products, which means that it should be able to fit in a shoebox. And most importantly, the product's inherent value should be ambiguous. So you want to avoid selling other people's brands, and you want to avoid products that are just kind of readily available in brick and mortar stores that we talked about earlier. This is also something pretty important. The product should not be timeless and go obsolete. Oftentimes people will sign up for my class and they'll want to sell like cell phone cases or smartphone cases. And you realize that if you do something like that, that smartphone case that you're selling is going to be obsolete in like 6 months or so. And that puts a lot of time pressure on you, which you don't need. You always want to sell goods that sell from 20 to 200 bucks. You want to avoid seasonal goods if possible. Like I wouldn't sell Halloween costumes, for example. But most importantly, if you want to succeed on Amazon, you need to have products that sell for at least a 66% margin, which basically means that if the product costs you 10 bucks, you need to be able to sell it for 30 at a minimum, I would say. Now, here's just some nice to have guidelines. And these guidelines are more important when you have your own online store. So if you sell a product that has many related products you can expand into or accessories, then you can easily cross-sell into other accessories once you get that first sale. Anything that lends itself to customers ordering more than one is great. Anything that can be personalized is great. This is a picture of our personalized handkerchiefs that we sell for like $25. And these handkerchiefs cost us like $1 each, sometimes less than $1. So our margins are incredible. And because the personalization adds value, that's how we were able to charge such high prices. And most of the time, brides will order for their entire bridal party and the groomsmen as well. Here are just some nice to have also. Consumable products. If you have something that can be, every 30 days, like if you sell pet products, for example, they'll be coming back over and over and over again. If you can sell something that has enthusiast or a hobby focused following, that's great because you know where your customers live. So for example, if I were to sell fishing supplies, I know where fishing people hang out. There's a bunch of Facebook groups for fishermen. And any product that lends itself to content creation is great. We rank and search for almost all of our key product keyword terms, and we do that through content. So let's talk about brainstorming. It's a bunch of different ways to get product ideas. You can look on Pinterest. You can look on Etsy. Actually, incidentally, Etsy is actually one of my favorite places to look also, because most of the people on Etsy aren't looking to like expand their business or scale it. You can look at the Amazon bestsellers. You can use a tool like Longtail Pro or Ahrefs to see what people are searching for on Google. You can use a tool called Terapeak to see how well an item is selling on eBay. We only have an hour today, so I'm just going to show you a couple of ways using Amazon tools that have been very successful with my students. Okay, so when you're brainstorming possible products to sell, you want to gather as many product ideas as possible for comparison. All right, so this is what I always do. I just have a spreadsheet, and it just has 4 columns. the item name, the selling price, the product cost, and then what your margins are. Remember, your goal is to achieve a 66% margin. And I'm going to show you how to use a couple of tools today. I'm going to show you how to use Alibaba, which is a search engine for Chinese vendors. Show you how to use Amazon.com. Hopefully you guys know how to use Amazon already. And I'm going to show you how to use the AMZScout research tool. Okay, let's continue on with product research. All right, so this is the AMZScout tool. And I actually recommend using tools as kind of like a last resort. When you're thinking about products to sell, you always want to think about your own problems. Like when we came up with handkerchiefs, that was like our own problem that we had to solve. Or you want to sell something that you're very knowledgeable in. So an example that I always give is like I play ultimate frisbee. I've been playing for 25 years. Like I can think of a bunch of products offhand because ultimate is not like a well-served industry, but I know there's certain products that I potentially could develop. I would say though that if you have no idea what you want to sell and you just need someone or something to jumpstart the creative juices, that's where a tool like AMZScout comes in handy. So what AMZScout is it's a tool that basically scrapes every listing on Amazon, and you can query that database to give you product ideas based on specific parameters. All right, so this is what the product database looks like. And these are just kind of some of the filters I use to first order. Like I always set the estimated sales to at least 150. AMZScout will also rate each one of these products. It'll give it a rating from 1 to 10. So I always say, just give me a rating of 5 or above. It's got to sell for at least $20 and have less than 200 reviews. So just to be clear, the number of reviews on Amazon is kind of like a measure of the maturity of a listing. In general, the less reviews, the better. Then you click on Find Products. And what will happen is AMZScout will return to you a set of products that meets your criteria for sales, revenue, whatever filters you actually specified. Now, the way I do it is I just go down, and my cursor isn't working here. Let me hit Find Products again here. Hold on. There we go. Okay. As I look down, and I immediately rule out anything that's branded. And so like Yu-Gi-Oh, I wouldn't sell anything with Yu-Gi-Oh. I wouldn't sell anything from Igloo because that's a brand. And I'm basically looking for products that I might potentially want to sell or products that I might potentially be able to improve. And I'm also looking for products that don't necessarily have like a dominating brand. All right. So I probably wouldn't sell cups or anything like that because that's too commonplace. A hammock, maybe, but hammocks are kind of commonplace. I'm looking for something a little esoteric, like Ziploc bag organizers. That's pretty esoteric. So that might be something that I might do further research on. I tend to recommend like staying away from clothing personally, because clothing, you have to deal with sizes and you have to deal with designs, and it can get expensive really quick. Plus, I think the return rate on Amazon for clothing is like something like 20%. Kids waterproof bed pad, maybe that might be something. Basically, you want to just kind of go down this list, and this is giving you just some ideas, and you just kind of want to write them down. And once you've come up with one, and I actually did this exercise about 30 minutes before this webinar, and I came up with wooden pegboards. That was one of the items that I found on here. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to run through a complete example with wooden pegboards for you. All right, so let's say you want to sell wooden pegboards. You're not sure if it's going to be profitable or not. So the first thing that you do is you go on Amazon and you do a search for wooden pegboards. All right, and a whole bunch of results will show up. And then you use the AMZScout tool here. It's the Chrome plugin. And it will tell you approximately how much each of the items on the front page are making. It'll tell you the number of reviews. And here's what I specifically look for. All right, so I look for reviews in like the low hundreds. Okay, so it looks like here there's a lot of listings here that have less than 100 reviews, which is great. And I also look for an even distribution of revenue. I don't want like one seller like stealing all the sales. So it looks like a whole bunch of these guys on the front page, looks like most of them are making at least, $4,000 or $5,000. There's a couple stragglers here, but there's some people that make a lot of money here. And so far it's passing the eye check. All right. And it looks like the average selling price is $64. By the way, you want to go specifically here product by product to make sure that every single product is a pegboard that kind of matches what you're planning on selling. But it looks like the average selling price is about 64 bucks. Now, the next step is you want to find out what you could potentially get it for. All right, so you just go on Alibaba and you just type in pegboards and you just go down and you look and you'll notice that a lot of these items here are pretty much exactly the same as the ones that you're seeing on Amazon here, right? These wooden pegboards here. Like this one looks almost exactly like this one here. Okay, so you just get an idea here. It looks like you can get these pegboards anywhere from, I don't know, looks like $10 to $50 depending on what it is. Like this is like a shelf. So maybe this is like the best representation, like this one or this one. So we're looking at like maybe 10 bucks for kind of like a small pegboard, similar to what's being sold here. These are all kind of small pegboards. Okay. So just incidentally, these prices on Alibaba aren't always accurate. Like if you contact them, they might give you a different price, but it's a good gauge to see approximately how much this is going to cost you. Now, keep in mind that this is the price of the vendor in China, right? It does not take into account shipping, and it does not take into account customs duties or freight or anything like that. So in order to figure out whether it's viable, like it might cost us 10 bucks here, but after shipping and everything, you need to figure out, what your actual final cost is. So how do you figure that out? Well, first you need to figure out whether there's any customs duties on that item. So for these pegboards, the one I wanted to sell was metal. So maybe I'll send you guys some resources how you can figure this out. But there's a whole bunch of tools out there. Just type in duty rate calculator on Google, and it will basically, you enter in what you're trying to sell, and it'll tell you what the duty rate is. So for this particular item here, there's actually no duty rate. So it's 0%. And so what do you do with that number? Well, I plug it into my handy dandy real cost of goods calculator, which I'll give you guys access to this if you want. This is a tool that I developed that will give you a pretty good estimate of what your true landed cost of goods are, depending on what the customs duty rate is. So in this case, I just entered in a cost of 10 bucks, ordering 1,000 units, duty rate of 0. And it's telling me that I can buy these for 10 bucks, but it's going to cost me about $10.90 landed at these quantities. This is just an approximation. So you should never take this number as gospel. If you want the actual number, you need to contact a freight forwarder, but this is a pretty good estimate for your calculations. Okay, so this is going to be the cost landed at my warehouse, including sea shipping. By the way, all the rates for sea shipping are back to normal. They were really high during the pandemic, but all shipping rates are pretty much back to normal today. Okay, and then after that, we do some math. Okay, I know the average price, according to AMZScout was 64 bucks, but before this, I went through the exercise and I just eliminated all the items that didn't match exactly what I was trying to sell on Amazon. And I found that the approximate price was $50 on Amazon. I can buy these for 10 bucks in bulk. The true landed cost is $10.90. And that makes the margin about 78%. Okay, that's assuming I sell the exact same pegboard that's being offered on Alibaba. All right, but you don't want to sell the exact same thing on Amazon that's already on Alibaba. You want to make improvements to it because if you're going to put your own brand on something, you want to make sure that you sell something that's the best, even if it costs you a little bit more money. So I would go back and I would look at the 2- and 3-star reviews and see what people are complaining about. All right, so number one, people were complaining that these pegboards were not really metal. They were made out of plastic and they cracked really easily. So guess what? First things first, I'm going to make mine metal. Okay. The other complaint was that these were really hard to install. And so I think people were complaining like you need 2 people to install it. Maybe what I would do is I would ship these boards with maybe some command strips so that you could actually mount it on the wall and then drill it in for easy mounting. But mostly people are just complaining that it was made out of cheap stuff, right? That was breakable. All right. So I would totally go and spend that extra margin. So we have a margin of about 78%. I would probably spend, 12% of that margin and make something better. All right. So make it metal, make it easier to install, and include better instructions. That way I can list it on Amazon saying, hey, this is a high quality metal pegboard that will not break and it's easy to install. I probably filmed some sort of video too, showing the installation process to show how easy it is. And the final step is to check eBay. Usually I use a tool called Terapeak to do this, which is free with any eBay account. But you can just go on eBay, look at the completed listings, and see how these are selling on eBay. Now, the great thing about looking on eBay is that these sales are real sales, right? You have the real numbers, unlike tools, Amazon tools, which are only approximations. Anything you can find on eBay is real. And I found that eBay, like these pegboards are actually selling on eBay for between 45 and 60 bucks with a lot of completed listings. Okay. So do this for at least 20 to 30 products. This exact process I just showed you. Throw out anything that doesn't yield a 66% margin. Throw out anything that doesn't sell for at least 20 bucks. And then what you want to do is you want to just pick maybe 1 to 3 of these products to focus on in the beginning. And if you're just starting out on a low budget, I would say just focus on one product. You can get by with one product, just like my student who started, Vivian Liu, and she makes $3 million selling one product.